Welcome to the U-Turn podcast. My friend, this is Ashley Stahl. I'm your host, and you are in the right place if you're ready to create a business, a career, a personal brand, or just a life that you're so proud of. And every single week, we want to support you by bringing you PhDs, subject matter experts, psychology practitioners, business leaders, all here on the show to elevate your success in business and also in life so that you can leave a legacy, you can amplify your authority, and you can really skyrocket the amount of opportunities you're creating for yourself in your career, whether you're corporate or you're a business owner. And if you are new here, again, my name is Ashley Stahl. I'm an international bestselling author of the book U-Turn, Get Unstuck, Discover Your Direction, Design Your Dream Career. And most importantly, I'm the CEO and founder of Wise Whisper Agency. I'm a top 100 TEDx speaker on the internet, and I was so inspired to create Wise Whisper and help clients craft their signature talk. We've helped hundreds of clients craft their talk, and we've also helped so many of them land spots on some of the biggest stages in the world, including the TED and TEDx stage. And so I am here on a mission to help every changemaker I know impact millions. Also, before we get into this episode, shout out to our friend Andy B. Mackin, the artist that has gifted us this sick new music for the podcast. Let's get into this week's episode. All right, U-Turn friends, I'm bringing somebody on the show who shares a best friend with me, and it's Lynn Casey. And if you guys haven't heard me talk with Gina DeVee on the show, she is our mutual bestie who we love so much. Anybody that knows Gina and is close to Gina, if I don't say so myself, is a very expanded person, in my experience. So Lynn, I'm really excited to have you. Those of you who have not heard of Lynn Casey's work, she is a futurist. She is a cultural cartographer, a champion of humans, and she really has so much to say about the future, what we should expect. And I think we're living in a time right now that is so freaking anxiety-inducing, whether it is AI or the fires or planes going down or whatever it is. 2025 has started off very interesting. It really becomes triggering, and so many of us crave answers on where is this world going, because where it is right now feels weird. And Lynn's work is really to find and tell stories to Fortune 500 executives and brands that we really need to hear. And she really believes that human stories are the key to creating brands and cultures that thrive. And a lot of that comes down to her work, helping brands understand where the heck things are going. Last time I talked to Lynn, we talked a lot about feminine ambition and how we saw a lot of boss movements for women. And now we're seeing a lot of women who are kind of tired, and instead of leaning in, they want to lean out. So let's talk about the trends, Lynn. Thank you so much for coming on.
Ashley, it's an absolute delight. As you pointed out, mutual friend Gina has raved about you forever. And what I think, if you look at your own career, Ashley, you have really anticipated trends, right? You've if you think about your own trajectory, you've leaned in. There was a period where it was all about coaching, right? Where women were trying to be sort of, boss babes. It's I want to run my own thing. How do I get there? And because of your vast experience, you were okay, let me show you the ladder. Let me put the rope down and I'll help pull you up, right? But we're shifting from that era, right? We're shifting from that era of this is the one way to be. This is the cookie cutter answer, right? So if you look at, the future is really being built on self-agency. And here's how I always look at trends. Here's some trend tools, kids. You can do
it to me. I want to.
Well, it's really simple. And I'll use an example. My favorite example is, let's go back to the recession. Let's go all the way back to the recession. Okay. So 2008, 2009, markets are crashing. What is the number one thing that starts moving on Amazon? What's the number one thing that people are buying?
During the recession? I don't know. You tell me.
Cookware.
Cookware.
So all of a sudden we were whoa, I am not going out. We can't afford to go out to eat. We can't go, do these, wild nights that we used to do. So guess what? I'm going to have to come home and I'm going to have to figure this out. Right. So then what happens? Well, people get their cookware and they realize they don't know how to cook, right?
Mm,
So now we're Googling Epicurious recipes. And so people start posting videos on how to cook. What came out of that? Food Network. What came out of that? Food culture. What came out of that? Food travel. We are still living with the incredible, powerful impact
mm,
of a need based on a situation, right?
mm, mm.
So, where we are right now, when you look at 2025, we are living, right? Drop a pebble in a pond, we're living with the ripples of the pandemic. Okay.
Mm.
So, what happened in the pandemic, we're 2 years out, really.
Yeah.
It's typically when you start to see a broad impact of something. Okay.
Mm,
It's about 2 years to really say, oh, there's the repercussion of that, right? So, what are the things that we're craving? We're
mm,
craving community because we didn't have it,
mhm.
right? We're craving personalization because we were really stuck with a lack of variety, a basic human need, variety. We were
Yep.
stuck with a lack of variety because we were home with the same group of people, right? So we're starved for something unique. We're starved for something that we've never experienced before, right? We're starved for experiences. So one of the biggest trends that we're watching right now is the creation of personalized experiences that bring communities together.
Mm,
So one of the things we call that is clanning, right?
mm,
Clanning. So I'm online. I find out that, Free People is doing a cannabis drink event that's also going to bring in some indie bands, and there's going to be kite walking, right? And so you're like, wow, let me grab a friend and go to that. You're pretty confident that by going to that, you're going to meet people who share your values,
right.
right? You're going to meet people who are curious. You're going to meet people who care about the Free People brand. You're going to find people who are interested in those sort of on the edge experiences, right? So brands have become world builders,
Mm,
right? Mini worlds,
mm.
right? So Ralph Lauren isn't just a clothing store. Ralph Lauren has cafes, right? Ralph Lauren has a ski experience in Aspen. Ralph Lauren has a virtual store experience, in Miami,
Mm,
right? So they're way expanding who they are beyond sort of that goods that they
mhm.
started with, right? We want to enter into these worlds so we can find out something about ourselves and we can meet our community.
I love that. And it's like it's not just a brand, it's a way of life to
So,
look at Ralph Lauren. It's okay, so everything you're sharing, it makes me want to ask you about categories like work,
mhm,
dating, love, marriage, it's so interesting. My best friend in New York, she's a beauty queen. She is so amazing. She didn't even know she liked women, really. And we were at I dragged her to a 4th of July party. She met the love of her life, and it's this woman named Cassie, who is my favorite. And now they're married. And to think 3 years ago, she didn't even know that she was attracted to women. And so it's almost like we live in a world where the more we see these trends, and it's not to say that her attraction came out of a trend, but it's
mhm.
almost like this subconscious permission that's going on around us or something. So I would love to hear your take. Let's start with love. Like, where do you think marriage and even dating, so relationships and singles, where do you think things are going? And maybe some of it ties to the pandemic, maybe it doesn't. But I love this idea you shared about how there's moments that we see the future
Mhm,
leaking into the present. So it's
mhm.
like you saw the recession and then cookware started leaking in. So, yeah, talk to me a little bit about marriage and also dating.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So let's look at the younger generations. Let's look at millennials and Gen Z,
Mhm.
right? Who experienced incredible loneliness during the pandemic, like hyper loneliness, right? And so you see this real dissatisfaction with dating apps, right? It's
Mhm.
like, you know what? It's an algorithm. I'm not actually meeting people. So again, this turns into where can I go where people are value signaling who they are, right? So I know from the jump, this is something that I'm interested in, right? So whether that's going to a WNBA, basketball game, whether that means, I'm going to an event down the street, in real life is the new online.
Mhm.
People want to meet people in person in real life, right? So one of the things I talk a lot about is neurological networking,
Mm,
right? What we have to do is build new neurological pathways with events, with experiences, with culture, right? So it's not like networking so I can like get ahead,
mm,
right? I'm going to go to that thing because I want to learn. I want to go to that thing because I want to be exposed to something new. Like you dragged your friend to a 4th of July party and she had a new experience,
hmm.
right? We want to be placed in situations where we don't necessarily know everybody,
Right.
right? And particularly where we don't know the thing, right? So I'm going to go to a wine tasting thing. I'm going to go to a flower arranging thing. One of the biggest trends that we're seeing right now is subscription maker events, right? So
Mm,
there's a big one here in LA called Made, and you sign up, and once a month you get an invitation to some event where you're going to do something, right?
mm.
Something that you don't know how to do, right? So it might be painting a pair of sneakers. It might be um, doing, hieroglyphics. It might be flower arranging, right? You might go with one friend, but the idea is you're going to be dropped into a small tribe of people who are equally curious with the goal of finding something a shared like
Mm-hmm.
and a new shared tribe. We
Mm.
are looking for our communities. We want a
Would you
small,
say like this comes from COVID or just in general, like this was where we were going? Or do you think COVID just expedited this?
I think COVID absolutely expedited it, but
Yeah.
it really did was it's interesting. If you look at Gen X and boomers, what technology did is it enhanced communication for them, didn't replace it, right? Time and time again, what I heard during COVID, I heard so many 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds say, I see my mom talking on the phone and I don't know how to do that, right? So they never started with talking on the phone.
Right.
They started with texting. They started with Instagram. They started with meme culture. So they couldn't fall back on when I couldn't see you in real life. They couldn't fall back on, I'll just call you, right? Sure, I guess I could FaceTime, but that was never for long format conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So those two generations, both millennials and Zs, are like, mm-mm, I need to meet face to face. I need to meet in real life, right? I'm done. I'm over this kind of digital, non-analog way of being with other people.
Mm.
So it's a pretty dramatic shift. And smart brands are responding. I mean, you see that with pop-ups, you see that with like all what I call like the ancillary events, whether it's South by Southwest or whether it's New York Fashion Week. It's all these sort of secondary and tertiary events, right? Where it's like, oh, Elf is doing this like weird ice cream truck and it's going to be down on Worcester Street. So let's go check that out, right? So we're looking to be stimulated. We're looking to be excited. We're looking for really granular, hyper local, unique experiences that give us stories and that give
Yeah.
us a way to connect.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you're sharing. And I actually see what you're saying around dating. Like there's this new event brand, I can't remember the name, where they were targeting me on Instagram since I'm newly single. And they were saying, like, come to these in-person dinners every Wednesday, 5 single people. Obviously, you were saying like value signaling is huge. So that's what happened for me. And that's why I didn't sign up. I was like, well, who are these people? Like,
Mhm.
are they business owners like me? Are they into spirituality like me? Like, what do I? So I love that you're kind of meeting the future ideas with this idea of values and being able to meet people who match those values, whatever you're creating, whatever your customer.
Exactly. So if it had been a dinner where it was like, Ashley, come, we're gonna have 5 single entrepreneurs, who are bi-coastal, based in LA and New York. Um, and you get to kind of check a box of 8 things that you're interested in. And then they make sure that the dinner
Yeah,
that you're sent to has at least 3 or 4 of those,
yeah, yeah.
right?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like dating and all these things can move into like more in-person cravings. I see the apps that are hosting like events and stuff like that, trying to bring that in. What
Mhm.
about relationships? Like we've seen the past few years, like the structure of relationship be questioned, changed, gender, all these topics that I think are really important and interesting. Um, and just this focus on inclusion. And if there's anything I've learned watching inclusion as a theme become part of the conversation and as a movement, it's there's so many people that need to be included that we haven't even heard or talked about. And it's now coming to the front of who these people are that need this inclusion, that deserve this. What would be your feedback. And then also in LA, I see a lot of polyamory, a lot of people who want multiple partners. What is your thought on the institution of marriage when people choose to get married? If they do, women having babies, like what's your 2 cents on that whole thing?
Yeah. So I think all, to your point, Ashley, I think all those paradigms have been broken,
Yeah.
right? So polyculturalism is really what's happening right now. And what that means is however you choose to live your life is cool, right?
Mhm.
So number one thing we hear from Gen Z in particular is pansexuality,
Yeah.
right? Like I can't be put in a box. Like I might like a girl, I might like a boy, I might like both simultaneously. Like I don't know. So it sort of
Hmm.
depends on where I am, in what stage of my life. The base of all of this is loneliness.
Mm.
If I have to talk about the most important relationships people are seeking right now, it's friends.
Mm.
The hunt for friends, the desire for friendship is mission critical. One area where there's a huge white space opportunity is male friendship. A
Hmm.
much better job, right? Women do a much better job of creating community, of doing some sort of outreach. We're much quicker. Like I can start a conversation with you by saying, "Oh my God, like tell me about that wall hanging. That is like so amazing." And there we would go. Guys wouldn't normally do that, right?
Mm.
So male friendship. So I'll give you a pandemic example. So one of the tracking devices that came out during the pandemic that became very popular with men was Whoop. I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you remember it,
Hmm.
right? So what Whoop allowed guys to do, so let's say you and I are in a friendly competition and we're clocking our stuff on Whoop. And like day 4, I noticed that you haven't clocked in.
Hmm.
And I'm like, right, that's weird. Ashley's usually pretty on it. All right. Next day you don't clock in. So now I have an excuse to reach out to you.
Right.
It's like, hey girl, you
Where
know,
are you?
yeah. So it gave men a way of checking on each other that wasn't like, hey, are you okay? It was under the guise of this sort of friendly athletic competition,
Hmm.
right? And it became a real connective tissue
Mm.
for men during a time when isolation was really dangerous, right?
It's crazy because when you share these trends, it's so obvious. But I'm not, if somebody said, what's an area of opportunity right now? I wouldn't say male friendships. But then when you say it, I'm like, yeah, every boyfriend I've ever had does not have the same amount of friends I have. They always crave more. My last relationship, he had amazing friends, but none of them could really meet them where he really was. And he would share that. And so it's just fun to like hear you kind of validate what I don't want to say is obvious because it's not for a lot of people. But what does that mean for businesses, right? Like for innovators, it means, there's a need in the market for this.
Mm-hmm.
But what does it mean for like an existing business that's like, all right, I got to think about these trends because I imagine companies, come to you like these Fortune 500 companies, they've got entire ecosystems and infrastructures built and they don't want you to rock the boat so much that their business isn't relevant anymore. So, how do you look at a large business or any business and say, here's some things you need to implement because of where we are today now?
Yeah. So what you do is you give them, what I always encourage companies to do is have what I call constellation thinking, right? We're always taught about these North Stars. What's your North Star? What's a company's North Star? I don't believe in North Stars. I think the world is far more complex than that,
Mm.
right? So I believe in constellation thinking. All right, I can throw out 12 big trends, right? And then I can say, out of those 12 trends, I think these three seem to have opportunities for a brand like yours, right?
Mm.
So an easy layup one here is, Nike creating Nike Run Club, right?
Mm.
So that sounds like super obvious, and maybe it is, but it took them forever to actually do it, right? And now again, we see it's super popular. And to your point about dating and relationships, it's one of the number one things people are joining and flocking to because they see an opportunity to meet somebody,
Yeah.
right? So, number one, it's in real life. Number two, value signaling, right? Someone into health, I'm into health. Someone wants to do something outdoors, I want to do something outdoors. Experience collecting, right? Something that we can talk about,
Yep.
right? And then safety, there's a large enough group that it's not like I'm just meeting you when we're going on a run,
Right.
right? So, Nike Run Club makes a lot of sense,
Right.
right? REI would have climbing events, right? So if I'm a soft drink, how do I start to play into that? Right. So I have yet to understand why some brand hasn't glommed onto a poker night. Right.
Hmm.
Like, why isn't there like a national poker night?
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Yep.
Mahjong. Mahjong is huge right now, popping up all over the place. It's one of these sort of like sub trends. So
Yep.
why isn't like a book club? Why isn't someone like teaching young women, okay, we're going to have Mahjong night. It's going to be hosted by, X restaurant, TGI Fridays, whoever.
Mm,
And 12 people sign up and there's a table in the back, whatever. So what you're doing is you're providing space and place for people to lean into what they want, connectivity, to have experience, something to talk about, to make new bonds, and to do that, neurological networking that I'm talking about, right?
right.
I want to flex new muscles. I want to learn new things.
Hmm.
Knowledge is currency right now.
Hmm.
Knowledge is what everybody craves. Teach me something new.
Mm.
We're starved.
Well, and on that front, where do you see businesses going and the workforce going? Like, I know that it's interesting because when I think about the trends of work from home and stuff like that, I
Mhm.
think about like the coaching industry and online business. And it was weird. I remember when I started, it was like 2013, and nobody, like, if I was at the grocery store at noon, nobody was there. Everybody was at their office, you know? I can't even believe that was the world we lived in now that we look
Right?
at our world now. But it was like special that I was working from home. It was rare. It felt like I was living in a sick day from school, but I felt fine. And so I remember when the digital nomad movement really picked up when Facebook ads started in 2015. And then
Mhm.
everybody was like, work is where the Wi-Fi is, work from wherever hashtag. And then we had COVID, which like really was like Mortal Kombat, like finish it. Like it was just kind of like now we're really working from home. And now it makes me wonder, like we do see that correction where companies really are demanding employees in person. I've seen the research that indicates that if you work in person, you are more likely to get a promotion than if you work remotely. And that makes total sense to me because face-to-face human connection can't trump a digital moment. So, can you tell me a little bit about where do you think like work from home and business ownership is going and just workforce dynamics are going?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Again, when you talk to young people, they actually want to be back at work, right? And again, because they crave human connection.
Right,
They graduated into the pandemic, right? So they didn't have someone, they couldn't lean over your shoulder and go, wait, how do I do this? Like,
right,
think about it. Think about that.
right,
If you're brand new and you're in the workforce and you're like, I don't know how to make this Excel spreadsheet work. Now I have to put a meeting on a calendar with my boss to ask like a question that's this big.
right.
So the boss thinks I'm an idiot. I think I'm an idiot. Like the whole thing, it was really, really difficult for them. So they very much want to be back in office. They want to flirt. They want to meet new people. They want to have that sort of alternative culture that they didn't have. Now,
Right, right.
that being said, there's not a person on the planet who wants to sign up for 5 days a week,
It's
right?
not- Yeah,
So we've learned that fluidity is possible. And we've learned that we can work. Most people say, that sort of 3 days in office seems to work best,
yeah,
right? So that being said, hopefully companies will grasp that. I mean, we see Amazon's requiring 5 days a week. We're hearing that news from a lot of sort of the banking industry and finance industry.
yeah,
I do believe that that sort of human connectivity is how ideas blow up, that idea of serendipitous collision, right? I bump into you in the hallway, you tell me about a project you're working on. I'm like, oh my God, wait a minute, we're working on something similar. So I do think that there's a lot of value in having that human interaction. What I think is happening is that this idea of entrepreneurship is really going to take hold. So entrepreneurship is going to be a little bit quiet. There's going to be sort of a break tapping on that for a bit. But the idea of being an entrepreneur, what can you bring, right? What's your secret sauce? What
mhm,
is your idea? And then having that responsibility to run with it, right? On a parallel track, we're going to see side hustles continue to grow,
right,
right? So I'm not going to be like, well, screw this. I don't want to go back to work. I'm going to create a, portable flower arranging business and, do
yeah,
pop. But I will work on that on the side, right? And I
mhm,
will lean into anything in my current place of work that helps me learn about running a business, helps me learn about supply side. I'm going to sign up for every single course that I possibly can that's being offered by my companies.
mm,
So companies as knowledge providers is going to be a huge trend. It
Yeah.
is, when I talk to HR executives, it's the number one thing people are begging for. Give
Girl, I pay 50K a year for my team to access an entire portal
brilliant.
of great stuff on how to be good at sales, how to be good at lead generation. Like my girl is, it's incredible what it does. It's interesting because my a lot of my team is 1099s that are part-time, some of them
Yeah.
aren't. And I felt when I presented it to one of my 1099s, like, hey, you should show up for these calls every week. They're super valuable training. I didn't want to be pushy because she's not a W-2. I can't tell her when to work.
Yeah.
And I was actually shocked by how much she saw the value and was like, absolutely. And so that was like really fun to see. And it's kind of like what you're sharing here is the value.
So the way I describe this when I'm talking to big corporations and why they have to lean into ed tech, why they have to lean into online coaching, AI, how to cold call, how to connect with people, whatever you have, knowledge is the current currency of choice right now, right? And think of today's worker, particularly younger people, they have no intention of staying in the same job,
Right.
right? If you ask a 26-year-old how many jobs they're going to have, they will tell you a minimum of 15.
Yeah.
Imagine our parents. Can you imagine our parents? Like they would have a heart attack. They'd be like, oh my God, you're going to be like a job hopper. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, right? So the way I always, when I'm talking about this with big corporations, I put up a big slide of Katniss from the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
First thing I put up. And then I'm like, she has a quiver on her back. All she is looking for are arrows to put in her quiver, right? Because she's going to take those arrows wherever she goes.
Yeah.
So as long as you're giving her new arrows, as long as you're giving her new skills, as long as you're giving her new ways of thinking, she's going to lean in. She's going
Mhm.
to stay engaged. The minute she stops learning, she's going to
Yeah.
take that quiver, go
I
to her
know.
next thing. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because when you said Hunger Games, I was thinking it's Hunger Games for the employer. You better keep your talent or you're going to lose them and people are going to be
Yeah.
out the door. Okay, so this is
Loyalty.
so you see more hybrid work being like cemented as kind of like the way of being. What about what percent of people even work full time? Like I feel weird asking anybody to be full time for me because I don't want to work full time. I work full time, but it's for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, like and I have a friend of mine, she's in New York. She was my neighbor the first day I moved to New York. I remember I didn't have any friends. And we had like a little backyard and it was literally like is it Wilson from Seinfeld where like you pop
Yeah.
over the fence? She
Mm-hmm.
was like we were like Wilson. Like she was like having a cigarette, out back or something that, and I was like, "Hello?" and I popped over the fence. And we became the
Like,
best of friends. She's the
yeah.
best. Shout out to Alessandra. But yeah, um she was laid off for a year and she ended up finding a new role and she's so excited to be back in the office full time.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the only friend I have that is full time in an office every day.
Wow.
What percent do you think the world will be in that position in 5 years from now? Like ballpark.
Yeah. I'd say 40.
Okay, so like a
I,
little less than half.
yeah. I say about 40% will cleave to that. I
Okay,
think if I had to give you a word for the future, it would be fluidity.
I love that.
So, I'm going to track to that in a second, but if you think about fluidity, it's what does work look like? I don't know. What do relationships look like? I don't know. But going back to one of the topics we talked about discussing, what's fluid? Femininity.
Mm,
Women are fluid,
mm,
right? Men are fixed. And this is not men hating,
mhm,
right? But we know that men work in a fixed plane, right? But when we think about femininity, it tends to be sensual. It tends to ebb and flow, right? It tends to lean in and lean out. It's much more intuitive. It's much more spiritual. It has seasons.
mm,
And we're willing to sort of play in that space.
mhm.
We're not rigid and we're not locked into one way of doing things, right? Again, we understand that sort of ebb and flow.
Right,
So I think if we want to look at the future, we have to look at women.
right.
Women are one of the first to embrace the idea of flexible work, and in a large part because they have children, right? So that first became a requirement. It's like, At the end of the day, I'm primary caregiver. So, how do I do that? And then how do I work? All right. I have to figure out that level of flexibility. Right. And then after a while, it's like, oh, I can make this work. Right. Then it might be, okay, on top of that, I can probably layer, I'm doing this one thing on the side. I can probably layer that on too. Right.
Mm,
Right. Women are community builders. And women have always been more purpose driven.
mm,
So, one of the things that's being really watched in the financial markets right now is we're undergoing one of the greatest generational shifts in wealth ever.
mm,
Okay. So, all that sort of boomer money is being shifted to millennials and to women.
mm,
Women are going to be caretakers of far more money than any time in the past. So, for the first time, women are going to be holding the purse strings,
wow.
right? And what we know what women do is they're purpose driven. They like to lean into philanthropy, right? So I cannot tell you how many investment groups, money market people are all trying to scramble to figure out how do we talk to women and with women
Mm,
about investment strategies, about what to do with their money. And women are like, show me something with a purpose. Show me
mm,
something that's building a better world, right?
mm,
Show me something that's pulling other women up.
mm.
It's a fascinating time.
I love that. And I know that, I love the term that you've talked about is feminine ambition.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how to work my off, Lynn. Like, no problem. You want me to, I built my first e-learning company. I was up at like 6 a.m. I had a to-do list. I had such a mean relationship with myself looking back. I was only like 25 at the time, and now I'm almost 40. But I remember looking at my to-do list every day and being like, I will not go to bed until this is done because these things need to be done in order for tomorrow's things to get done. Like it's all layering, right? And I remember some nights I would be up until like 2 in the morning, try to figure out technology. I didn't sleep and I just worked so hard. And
What
I,
drove you, Ashley? What was the
yeah,
impetus behind that?
yeah, I think the thing that drove me was twofold. Number one was I really believed in what I was doing. I thought that my job hunting course was killer. I thought that nobody knew how to get jobs, and I was so good at getting job offers. In fact, somebody on my team just recently, I realized that she was a very high-end hire for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized she was so good at her job, we literally didn't need her as a company anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of my W-2s. And so in true career, I love this woman like who worked with us. In true career coach fashion, I didn't just let her go. I got her 3 job offers and doubled her salary. And she
Love
starts
it.
this week. So the point is what motivates me. I really believed in what I was selling. And
Mm-hmm.
I also really wanted to create wealth because my dad lost all his money when I was a little kid. And I just remember thinking, I'm 25. I need to put all my time in. This is the time. I want to be a mother. That was the thing. I wanted to be a mother. And I felt the clock ticking. I'm like, I only have so much time to create my own wealth. I can't rely on a man. I'd come across so many men who weren't earners like was going to be anyway.
Yep.
And I just remember thinking, like, if I want to pick who I want to be with, I better provide myself with a lot of money. And so I just hustled off. And you know what? I ended up losing all my money. I was in $500,000 of debt for 4 years. I mean, I had a lot of success. I made like $7 million of revenue in two months after a year of failure and debt
Mm-hmm.
and figuring it out. And then, I didn't know how to manage a business. I wasn't good at money crunching and numbers, totally sabotaged my business. And it's all from my own money mindset that I've had to work on over the years.
Right.
But looking back, I'm like, whoa, I was really burnt out after that. And I didn't have anything to give for like 4 years. I literally paid off the debt. I had 3 clients a week tops. I adjusted my lifestyle. And now I have my agency, Wise Whisper. We've helped over 100 people at this point craft their TEDx talk. We have one client this week. She's going crazy viral. She's going to go to the top 100 on the TEDx channel for sure. And I'm so proud of what we're doing and I'm playing bigger again. But
Mm-hmm.
even as I started to play really big with this business and try to scale it, I noticed myself wanting to play smaller. Because with the bigger playing, it does require more of me to keep the excellence high. And so, yeah, long answer to your question.
It's not a long answer. And it actually parallel paths with where we're seeing the world go,
Right.
Ash. So think about what you were doing. When you were 26, you were playing a long game for what? For freedom.
Yeah.
For freedom, right? For fluidity, right? And so when you talk to young people today, there's a real sense of ephemeralism, right? Like, what's really real in this world? Nothing,
Right.
right? Um, Certainly like news, that's not real. Facts, they're not real. Like, what can I believe and how do I believe in it, right? So that idea of like overstretching or overinvesting in work doesn't make sense,
Mm.
right? So there's this sort of like first things first, and the first thing is my life. The example I like to always give people is I'm gonna do a little drawing here for you. So boomers, if you'd ask them about work-life balance, they would have seen it like this. Okay, so that middle part is work, right? And these little rays around the outside are sort of life. Like maybe it's a
So,
weekend,
audio listener, she's drawing a circle and she has like little rays around it, like a
little
sun.
rays around it, right? So then when we got to millennials, we had the famous work-life balance, right? The Venn diagram. So no, 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 I need work-life balance.
Right.
Okay. Today's generation says, I don't even get the question. We have life. I have
Yeah.
a, okay, work's a part of it, but I have a life. So I'll do certain things, but I'm not committing. This goes to relationships. This goes to homes. This goes to education. You see a lot of kids kind of saying, is college worth it? Do I really want to get into debt?
Mm,
Those numbers continue to plummet because I can get my training elsewhere. I can get my learning elsewhere. What do I want to do with that time? What do I want to do with my time on this planet? Right. So I want to explore myself. I want to really sort of understand my own personhood, right? Inner journeys, retreats, experiences, value community, meeting other people, neurological networking. That's most important to me, right? And then work, yeah, no, I have to make a living. And I totally want to find work that has purpose to it, has some sort of value, is making the planet a better place, that obviously affords me a decent living, but
right.
it's never going to be the be all or end all. And
Right.
that is one of the biggest shifts I've ever seen.
Wow. 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 Okay. And I know that there's so many different really cool topics you talk about, like self-care and how it's become escapism. I feel like this is a fun one to talk about because I see it everywhere. I'm like, how many red light hours are you spending? How many supplements are you taking? I went to my acupuncture guy, speaking of self-care. I saw an acupuncture guy when my Lyme disease really kicked up.
Mhm.
And he was like, you're taking too many supplements. It's bad for your liver. Like there's too many going through you. And I'm like, but they said for my wellness regimen, you know? And so, yeah, anything you could share about the weird self-care
Yeah.
stuff happening would be
So do you
great.
remember cocooning?
Yeah,
Cocooning was a big thing,
yeah,
right? So we're cocooning 2.0.
yeah.
Right? So cocooning is huge. We're all turning inward. You said it at the top of the call. There is way too much stuff out there for us to manage or to take in. It is wrecking our nervous systems. So
Yeah.
it's like I can't watch the news. I can't pay attention to all this stuff. It is overwhelming,
Yeah.
right? So I'm going to turn inward. And how am I going to do that? Well, everyone talks about self-care. You're taking care of yourself, right? So the 12 the 12 step skincare that 3 years ago we were like, come on, who has time for a 12-step skincare? Now it's like, that's how you're going to take care of yourself. So I'm going to do a 12-step skincare, then I'm going to put my red light mask on for 10 minutes, right? Then I'm going to use like my solo weight, right? Then I'm going to lay down on my pema mat to like get the right circuits going through my back. Then I'm going to put my like special band on to sleep, get to my alpha waves. It's like, because we cannot control the external, we're going to control the internal, right? So what can I control? My physical body, right? My mental state, right? So the real estate of our lives has gotten really, really small and really, really personal.
Mm,
So how do you help me feel good? Well, I can't feel good about anything out there. I literally have no control about anything out there,
mm,
but I can I can tell myself I'm doing the best I can by taking my supplements, investing in all this, skincare. I mean, a girlfriend of mine, and I've spoken to you about her before, she's a huge entrepreneur, but she posted, I have known this woman for over 10 years and I love her, but she posted on Instagram today, like my morning supplements. There were at least 15 things on there. And I will tell you, I took a screenshot because I'm like, okay, I want to know what she's doing, right?
Right.
We're looking for those places that we have purchased. Like we're climbing up this slippery hill and we keep losing purchase. So if I can put something on my face, if I can put something in my body, right? If I can listen to that meditation tape, I know I'm doing something good. I
Right.
know I'm doing something positive, right? And it's also something I can bond with other people over.
Right. Something to talk about. People are looking for things to talk about. People feel so
Right. And
connected.
experience together,
Yeah.
right? So we're going to go to, one of the biggest trends right now is communal saunas and cold plunges,
Mm,
right? So they went from being this sort of you go rent a little sauna space for half an hour and then
mm,
do a cold plunge. It's like maybe I can combine these things.
mm.
Wellness clubs like Remedy and Hume are
Yep.
going to blow up,
You
right?
think it's just the beginning for those right now?
Just the beginning.
Wow,
They
that's
are going to be the new Soho House.
I could totally see that. But at what point is it like narcissism and escapism and just like not even self-care anymore? It's like
Yeah.
self-obsession.
It's self-obsession, but again, it's cocooning.
Mhm.
It's turning inward because I can't turn outward. So it's really self-protection.
Mm,
And it's one of those things where we all have that friend who exercises 3 times a day,
hmm.
sort of like what's your argument to say to
Yeah.
someone, really? Like you ran 8 miles this morning and you did Pilates and now you're going to like a HIIT class. Like
Right.
it's very hard to say to someone that's not good for you, right?
Right, right.
Because it kind of is, even
Well,
if
that's
you're
the thing
okay.
about addiction in society. It's easily masked. Like workaholism is praised as being a hard worker and a high achiever. Like sexaholics, could just say they want to connect, they want intimacy.
Hmm.
Maybe some of them are poly, I don't know, and they're like, I want multiple partners, but really it's a mask. I'm not saying that's the case for poly at all, but like there's just so many ways in today's narrative to hide addictive habits, right? Like I'm a
Right.
foodie. I love cocktails. Like I'm a big wino. It's like,
Hmm.
or there's more there. So I think you're pointing out something really important. Okay, final question. You talk about CQ. Can you talk about what that is?
Thank you, because I think that's really important. I do a lot of mentoring, as you know, and people always say, okay, what's the one skill I need to have? Like,
Yeah.
what's the one skill I need to have in the future? With AI showing up to take care of all of our functionality, right? To take care of all of the day to day, what do we need?
Right.
We need a capacity to dream, right? And it's one word and it's curiosity. Those who develop their CQ, right? We have IQ, which is about intelligence. We have EQ, which is about understanding other people's emotions and having empathy. CQ, that's what I would hire for.
Mm,
That's what I look for.
mm,
How curious are you?
mm,
Because Ashley, you and I could have a race. We could say, okay, hey, 3 days, heads down. We're going to learn everything that we need to learn about 3D printing, right?
mm,
We're going to put our heads up. We'll have a conversation. During that time that we're having the conversation, 3D printing will have like hyperlooped to whatever the
mm,
next version is.
mm, mhm,
So, what can we be? We can be curious,
mm,
right? We can always be looking on the edge. We can always be trying to understand what's next. We can always be asking questions. Again, neurological networking. So,
mm,
exposing yourself.
mm,
Because one thing that we are experiencing right now is the death of pop culture.
mm,
Pop culture is an oxymoron. If it's popular, it's not culture, right? It's me too. It's sameness. So
mhm,
we always have to be trying to figure out what's on the edge, what's next, where are people going, what are we hungry for?
mm.
I'm curious about one of the things I love to ask people when I'm at some big event. You and I met for the first time. I'd be like, okay, what's the big question that you're wrestling with?
It's interesting because you talk about curiosity and like I'm a very curious person, but it's domain specific. If you
Hmm.
talk to me about politics, I'm actually shockingly not very curious.
That's fine.
Yeah, but so it's interesting you're talking about curiosity in general. So if you said what questions on your mind, I don't know. My personal question is like how to learn investing. Like how do I become a good investor?
Right?
You
It
know?
also might be like, how do I meet a good guy?
Right. That's a very real question. Like
Right?
shout out to everybody that knows a guy who's ready to get married and have kids.
When I host an event, I have everyone's lanyard that have your name on the front and your burning question on the back,
Right.
right? How do
Right.
I meet a good guy? Should I get a dog? Should I move to New York? Should I quit my main job and do that side hustle? Like, what's your burning personal question,
Yeah.
right? So dig in there.
Right.
Start with that, right? What are you doing today that you're going to be proud of stuff in 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? Go to the big stuff and then start to breadcrumb.
Mm.
Curiosity is going to be the magic elixir that people who possess it and people who work on it are going to win with.
I love this so much. This has been such a cool conversation. Like, who should reach out to you to work with you? Or I'm just like writing little notes down on my pad right here as you talk because there's been so many, but who's the perfect person for to reach out to you and take it to the next level?
Yeah. I love to work with brands that have a brand champion, who have someone who's really daring, someone who's willing to take chances, someone who's like, we need to take a leap. I love to work with startups to help them really sort of brainstorm and figure out what their next opportunities are. Running a really great offsite that really exposes them to lots of different thinking and lots of exercises that they can take in-house. So, really working with anyone who is curious and who's energized to grow.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can everybody go and reach out to you?
You can go to my website, www.shinescout.com. We scout the shine.
I love that.
Yeah, and my contact information is on the website.
So fun. This is such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having it.
Oh my gosh, Ashley, thank you for having me. I love listening to your podcast. I think you always have people who really dig deep, and I always learn something. So I'm really honored that you asked
I
me.
love this show, and I really love that you have been listening and that you're here. And I think this is going to be so stimulating for so many people because the world is weird, and the more we can make some sense of it, whether we're right, whether we're wrong, whether we're almost right, is so comforting. So thank you again for coming on.
All right, thanks for having me. Have a great week.
Thanks for tuning in to the U-Turn podcast. I hope you learned so much in this episode and you're putting it into action today. We would love to hear from you. Slide into my DMs at Ashley Stahl or leave a written review if you're inspired. It would mean so much to us. Be sure to subscribe to the show because, as you know, the more subscribers we get, the better the guests we can bring you. And in the meantime, if you're looking to skyrocket your personal brand and impact millions, head on over to wisewhisperagency.com to learn more about how we can help you craft your greatest talk of your life, how we can help you get booked on some of the biggest stages in the world, even the TED or TEDx stage. We'd love to hear from you, and that's it for this week.
Trying to solve, always think you know it all. Been thinking about you up against that wall. It's too late, I fell on every fall. Holding ground on hearts. I'm holding ground on hearts. Holding ground on late night drive. What you trying to do tonight? I swear you don't even try. Yeah, you still stupid. I can try and make you mine, but I don't think you like guys. I don't think you like guys. I don't think I should try. I guess it's time to give up, but I